my pen name is Daniel. My new book is called Burn the City to the Ground. It's a memoir about my time caregiving for a quadriplegic in downtown Minneapolis in the year sort of leading up to the pandemic and riots. And one of the reasons why it's sort of getting noticed a little bit more is because I was a volunteer at the shelter where George Floyd was working, and I wasn't like his best friend or anything, but I knew him a little bit, and I wrote about some of my experiences at the shelter. The crazy thing about this book is that I started writing it in like 2018 and 2019 before he was gone, before he was murdered, and I actually had him he was already in the book like at that time. So it's kind of a shocking, kind of mind-blowing thing for me when I went back to kind of finish the story in 2021. In like last winter, I picked it up again, and I read the parts with George that mentioned George Floyd, and I was like, wow. So I'm gonna read a chapter from the book now, and then we're gonna have a Q&A if anyone has any questions. I just want to give I just want to give a little context. Now this chapter is going to have some swearing and some drug references in it. The book is kind of almost like a born-again Christian story, but there's definitely like a lot of profanity. It's sort of like my time transitioning from Buddhist to Christian. So there is like that element in there, but it's very much like sort of a real like story with a lot of adult themes in it. So the context of this passage, I'm I'm working at the homeless shelter in the beginning of the chapter, and I come home to care for my client who is quadriplegic, and I'm getting her out of bed, and she is going to see another quad that lives in our building to kind of spend some time with them. So I'm gonna read the chapter now. It's about halfway through the book, so there is some mild spoilers, but I think it should hopefully be good. So this is chapter 16. I'm just gonna start reading. It was freezing in the meat locker at 1010 Curry Avenue, especially at 6 in the morning. These moments were normally reserved for early January, not late in the summer. Sam was still in bed, and I was approximately a mile and a half away getting breakfast ready for 90 hungry homeless people. Janet had given me a list of types of meat to collect. I sifted through milk crates filled with frozen sausages, ground turkey, whole chickens, leftover everything from grocery stores throughout the metro. Nothing went to waste, well, unless it was rotten, and only when it was rotten. Even then, it was kept in blue bins and passed along to the hog farmers. They had an efficient system at the shelter, but the trouble was finding folks to operate it. Not many volunteers felt the need to venture out into that neck of the woods. Janet was cooking her famous chicken and waffles today, a regular and popular staple at the shelter. For a homeless shelter, the food was actually quite good, and I would sample the meals if there was enough left over. You could often see security fixing themselves plates along with the administrators in the offices on the upper floors. It reminded me of Templeton the Rat in Charlotte's Web. The shelter was a veritable smorgasbord when the lights of the city lost their luster. I grabbed several bags of chicken tenders from the freezer and brought them up to the fryers across from the food service line. "Throw them down there, Daniel," Janet motioned to a massive stainless steel table. Get in the food line and start serving while I fry these up. Janet, I poked her. Guess what I'm listening to today? What? She smiled. Sade. Damn, man, you're always listening to Sade down here. Sweetest taboo, cherish the day. Lord, those were my glory years. Amen. I did the sign of the cross and got into the serving line. I dished out chicken tenders and waffles with some very thin, soupy maple syrup that tasted a lot better than its consistency suggested. I glanced over at Janet, who had her back turned to me. A weary, toothless woman approached the buffet. I made her a plate and handed it to her. Son, I need more chicken than this to get through the day. Why don't you give me a few more pieces? Even just one more would be good. Janet's ears perked up. She turned to address the woman. Hey, listen. If we be giving you extra chicken, we will need to be giving everybody extra chicken. You just move along, lady. Don't hold up the line. If there is extra, we will hand it out, but for now, everybody has got to eat. The woman mumbled something to herself and moved on, slowly down the line. I saw Floyd remove a lot of disgruntled customers through the months, but that only happened when they threw up a fuss. Janet kept it orderly, disciplined. Floyd took care of the troublemakers. That's just how things worked at the Salvation Army shelter. When all the people were fed, we called out for seconds. The woman came again and happily gathered her chicken. We gave her enough to have some for later, and she left the cafeteria in good spirits. I removed my plastic apron and threw it into a nearby garbage can. Janet began making a list of what she would need to prepare lunch. You leaving already, Daniel? Yeah, I gotta go back to my roomie, I sighed. Does she know you come down here like this? Yeah, she does. I think she's more pissed off, though, that I will oversleep every other day when I'm taking care of her and then get up at the ass crack of dawn to come here and serve bums. I don't blame her. It is pretty lazy of me, but hey, I literally take care of her every day and I only come down here for like 5 or 6 hours a week. She can cool her jets for a few hours. Well, invite her down here sometime. I will make her something special. I don't really think this is her kind of place. Maybe you can make it to go? Ah, I got you. Yeah, sometime I will. Janet's smile was like a warm hug. It felt like home even in this unforgiving place. She always had on an old pair of jeans, a plaid shirt, and a worn canvas apron. Janet had an apartment that she rented, but she let her daughter and her grandkids stay there for free and would often spend weeks or months with friends to give them extra space. The depth of her sacrifices for her family often left her hard-pressed to take care of her own necessities, but she was just that type of person. If there was anything that I could do for her, anything I could help her with, I would try to do it. She made sure that the homeless shelter was a safe place for me to be, and I really appreciated that. I just wish things weren't so difficult for her. See you next time. Save some of that angel food for me, okay? Sure thing, Daniel, she smiled. I passed Floyd on my way out. He gave me a knowing nod, but said nothing, which was typical. He was a man of few words, but always a welcome sight coming or going. I had wondered what he had thought of me, but never found the courage or reason to ask him. He seemed of little consequence or importance. I turned up my headphones and headed out into the street. It was 8 a.m. and Sam would want breakfast soon. Passing the oppressed residents of Minneapolis walking down Hennepin Avenue was no longer a bother to me. It was as though I had become a regular fixture in the city. There were no longer any odd looks or unwelcome stares. I was home. When I arrived at our apartment, Sam had opened the blinds and was sitting up in bed watching television. Why are you sitting up? I'm tired of fucking laying in bed, Daniel. She took a long, slow pull off a vape pen and exhaled a few times in short succession. Due to her condition, she was unable to properly cough. At least I got this sweet, sweet grass. So, no need for drug dealers or any of that stuff. She closed her eyes serenely and circled her hand beside her head as though some song she had just composed in her imagination was finally materializing. Fuck, Dan. You know you spooked Kim. She will call on the phone every once in a while, but she acts like you are the district attorney or something. Maybe if and when I get out of this goddamn bed, I can hang out with her. Sam took another drag off her vape. You know what, Dan? Maybe I'll call her today. I'll just dial her up and head down to her apartment. I mean, shit, we live in the same building. Ugh, I groaned. Are you a cop, Dan? Are you the quad police? You going to tattle? Punish me for bad behavior? No, do what you want. Just be careful. No hard drugs. I will do hard drugs when I want to, Dad. She defiantly hit her vape pen and blew the smoke right in my face. Well, I remind you I'm a mandated reporter and I can't let you do this shit under penalty of law. It could carry some severe consequences. You just won't be in the know then, Dad. Sam attempted to blow some smoke rings and actually managed to make a good one. God, this is not where I saw myself 4 years ago, I admitted. Ignorance is bliss, buddy. Now put me in my chair. I want to make mischief. I didn't want to comply, but I had to. Attempting to deny Sam something as simple as being put in her chair was also illegal, so it was a bit of a catch-22. Person-centered care means helping your client lead their best life. I couldn't stop her from being in her chair, seeing her friend, having some time alone with her. She was her own guardian and was allowed to keep secrets from me. I could suspect her all I wanted to, but without proof of wrongdoing, there was nothing to report. There was what had come to be known as the Meth Incident, but that was immediately shut down. No harm, no foul, right? When Sam was up in her wheelchair, she quickly ate breakfast and then sped down the hall towards Kim's apartment. Don't wait up, Dad. Why don't you take the afternoon off? Okay, dear? Bye, she yelled, maniacally laughing as she sped off. I went back into the apartment and began washing dishes. When I had completed the task, I retired to my bedroom, where I edited my manuscript for the remainder of the afternoon. In the evening, Sam returned, out of breath and panicked. Her horrified expression startled me as she screamed, Daniel, call 911, right fucking now. What? What's going on? What the hell? Are you joking? Not a joke, Dan. Kim isn't breathing. I immediately dialed 911 and rushed to Kim's apartment. I ran down the stairwell into the 4th floor. The apartment's passing seemed a blur, but when I got to the door, I couldn't open it. Kim's doorway also had a code. I would have to wait for Sam to take the elevator and navigate her way to the apartment. 911, what is your emergency? Well, I fumbled. I'm a caregiver in downtown Minneapolis, and my client, who is a quadriplegic, discovered her friend, who is also quadriplegic, unresponsive and unable to breathe. Sam sped up to the doorway and gasped. The code for the door is 3311. I punched the numbers in quickly and surveyed the room. Kim was lying with her chair reclined. Her normally sun-kissed mahogany face was ashen, and her lips were turning blue. Her hair was draped down behind her chair, and she tilted backwards. Wait, Sam, what the fuck was she doing? What happened? Hello? The 911 operator spoke up. Sam mouthed, She overdosed, moron. What? What? No! I whispered with What? No, I whispered with urgency. Hello, sir. What is your situation? Hi, hello. She's here. She's barely breathing. Her face is turning blue. Daniel, Sam hissed. It's not like they aren't going to know she overdosed, I mouthed. Hello, sir? I'm going to need you to lift her out of her wheelchair and place her on the ground. It will be easier to do CPR. God, fuck Daniel, Sam squealed. Sir, is someone there with you? Sam's horrified expression echoed back. Yes, there fucking is. Yeah, it's my roommate. She's coming down to open the door for the ambulance. Go, now, I muttered. Sam smacked the remote on the side of the door and it whizzed open. I walked over to Kim and tried to lift her up out of her chair. Her heavy, awkward body hung limp on my arms. I couldn't lift her up. My right arm was under her neck and my left under her knees, but try as I might, I was too weak. There was a time when I had gone to the gym every day to lift weights, but after my cancer surgery, I had neglected any physical activity. My muscles strained under her mass, and with every ounce of force I tried to raise her up. Nothing worked. Sir, what is her status? I can't lift her up. I think she overdosed. She is too heavy. I can't lift her up. Just calm down, sir. Paramedics are on their way. Please check her pulse if you can. I put my index finger and middle finger on her neck to make sure she was still breathing. There's a pulse, but it is shallow. She is still in there. I stayed with her for several more intense minutes, checking her pulse and relaying the information to the dispatcher. Suddenly, there was a very loud knock on the door. I sprinted over to open it, and 2 paramedics entered with a gurney. They rushed to Kim's side and administered a dose of naloxone, and the color returned to her face. When she began to regain sentience, they transferred her to the gurney and ferried her through the apartment building to the ambulance. I followed behind and spoke briefly with the paramedic. You saved this girl's life. I hope she is grateful. How did you find her? He asked. My roommate found her. I think they were spending time together earlier in the day. I don't think she was involved in the incident. She seems more scared than anything. You can talk to her if you would like to. That won't be necessary. We're just glad she is alive. If you want, you can follow us down to the hospital, the medic offered. Thanks, I'll do that. It wasn't exactly a time for discussion. Sam was waiting in the apartment lobby. Her eyes were brimming with tears as she buried her face in her hands. The brace on her right arm had dug into her cheek, creating several large, red, ugly scratches. As I approached, she stared up in agony. I'm going down to the hospital to make sure she recovers, I informed her. Did you guys get separated or something? What happened? I don't know. I decided to go down to the river for a while by myself, and when I came back, she was just like that. I don't know what the hell happened to her, she sobbed. Did you see any of her friends? Yeah, she choked back a cry. They were there when I left. When I came back, they were gone and she was like that. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. Sam began bawling. I tried to give her a hug and she pushed me away. Sorry, frat boy, I'm just not that into you, she laughed a little through the tears. God fucking damn it, Kim, you almost got away. They just keep pulling you back in. You were the one that saved her, Sam. Well, Dan, I guess you were right. No one really wants a death on their hands. Besides, I'm not going to let her die before me, she wept. Please go back to the apartment. I will make sure she recovers. Sam sniffled, okay. It was around 8 o'clock when I arrived at Abbott Northwestern. I waited on a bench in the emergency room lobby for news of Kim's health. After an hour, a young woman approached me. She looked like she had just rolled out of bed. Her modest features were softened by the dew of tears in her eyes. Her dark hair was wild, and she held a book in her hand. Are you Daniel? She asked me. That would be me, I sighed, unfortunately. Unfortunately, she mumbled half asleep. I'm Emily, Kim's sister. Sam told me about what happened, and I just wanted to let you know you can go home now. Thank you for saving my sister. She might not appreciate it, but our family is very, very grateful to you and Sam. We try to watch out for her, but honestly, she has her ways of sneaking around in the company she keeps. Her voice grew severe. She might as well be living in a nest of vipers. I frowned. I knew all too well the influences that were kept. Sam is the one you should be thanking. I just dialed the phone and stayed with her until the medics arrived. It was more than enough, trust me. Just go. We will be okay. She placed her book on her lap and opened it to a page with a folded corner. It's okay. She will be okay. Go get some rest. Thank you. Please let us know if you hear something, I urged. I will message Sam. No worries. I walked away gradually, stopping every few paces, unsure of where to go from here. I felt lost. I glanced back at Emily reading her book. It almost appeared as if these matters were commonplace. She glanced over at me, then shyly looked back down at her book. Hey, I called out to her. Once I had a weird-looking mole on my face and your sister made fun of it a little. I went to get it checked out, and it was cancer. I owe her one. She laughed a little. That does sound like Kim. Thanks for the story. She simpered at me again, and then looked back down at her book. I walked out into the night, and for the first time I felt unwilling to go back to Sam, to lend myself to these dramas. How had I gotten so mixed up in this drug discussion? For the better part of my adulthood, I had stayed leagues away from it, but now, with Sam, it surrounded me. I was beginning to understand that I was the only thing holding her back from completely letting go. The question was, how long would the dike hold? I could only stick my thumb in it for so long. I sensed a slow degradation ahead, a decline, as though Sam was a stone I kept trying to roll up a hill to no avail. She didn't want to be a burden. I knew that for sure. Yet here with me, the policeman, the authority figure in her world, and she, forever trapped in the memory of a 20-year-old body, when the world was new and mature freedoms were suddenly at the tips of her fingers. She was still that person in her mind. She wasn't that person in my mind, though, and I felt she desperately wanted to be seen that way. I had hoped she would be ready to be out on her own when her time in my care was up. Was it so naive to think so? Knowing Sam, the answer was a resounding yes. She couldn't be contained. She couldn't be trusted. I just had to hold on tight and pray for better things. There wasn't a quiet way to enter the apartment. The large metal opener made a whirring noise, like a remote-control car barreling through an air vent at full speed. Sam was near the floor-to-ceiling windows. The blinds were open. The lights twinkled on the high-rises on the other side of the river. She was silent. She only gazed out into the darkness, motionless, her left hand perched under her chin. "You okay?" I dropped my keys on the countertop. "No, but Kim is," her sister called me. "Isn't that a good thing?" "Fuck Daniel, I don't know. She's still alive. Is it really all right for her? If it were me, I would want to be dead," she began sobbing. Her cheeks were already stained with tears. "I never should have come to get you. I should have just let her fucking die." "Do you want to talk about it?" "What else is there to say?" she cried. "Quads who have purpose, who want to live, are few and far between. They're rare, Daniel. Kim and I, we don't want this life. It is not kind to us. You say you understand, but do you really? You can walk out of here any day, any time, and just start over again somewhere new. Don't you get it? I can't fucking do that. Kim can't do that. We are fucking stuck. Dead weight. Throw us overboard to lighten the fucking load." She threw her arms up in the air. "I know what you're thinking, Dan. Fuck. Am I even talking to you anymore? Are you even hearing me? Why are you still here? Why don't you fucking get on with your life? Put me in bed, lock the door, and leave me to rot. Go live your life, Daniel. Isn't that what you want? You don't want this shit. You don't need this shit. Why the fuck are you even here?" she nearly screamed. "I don't know," I whispered. "You don't know? You don't fucking clean up after yourself. You're a lousy cook. You wake up late and sit in the bathroom for half an hour. You leave crumbs on the countertops. You forget my meds sometimes. I can't even really call you a great caregiver, maybe just fair." "Why are we making this about me now?" I looked confused. "I want you to leave, Daniel. Get the fuck away from here. I know you don't like the drugs or the lifestyle. Why the hell are you even helping me?" I knew this was coming. It seems she just beat me to the punch. "You're a good guy, Dan. A great guy. Not a great caregiver, but a great guy. Go meet women. See the world. Experience life. Live. You spend all day in this apartment with an ugly quad woman who smokes pot all day, and then when you leave, you go to a homeless shelter full of fucking criminals where you could get stabbed, robbed, or God knows what. What the fuck are you doing with your life, man?" "I'm trying to help," I asserted. "Help who? Hopeless and sorry, sad sacks of shit? I have news for you, Dan. There's no helping us. There's no white light at the end of the tunnel. There's only a downward spiral into Satan's fat, puckered asshole." She slammed her limp hand against the glass. "You want real talk, Dan? That is real fucking talk," she huffed. "For fuck's sake, can you just leave? Get out of here. I want to be alone." I took a few steps backward. I grabbed my keys off the counter. She lowered her head and began crying. "Come back in 2 hours. I just need some time alone." The humming of the door opening was deafening, and when it clicked into place, Sam let out a shiver. "Go." She pointed her braced hand toward the hallway. "Just go." So that's the end of the chapter. So now we're gonna have like a Q&A. Does anyone have any questions about the book? Sorry about the kids who are watching. So are there any questions about me or the book or anything like that? I'll be selling copies of this book. And then the first book that I wrote is called Corners Untouched by Madness. It is I can't really call it a prequel. It's sort of like the precursor to Burn the City to the Ground. It's about my struggles with mental health. This one, the climax of the book is the pandemic and riots and obviously the murder of George Floyd. It's a very emotional book for me. It was very difficult for me to write and even to read what I just wrote. It kind of sounds like like a parent yelling at a kid, So I know it's not the most difficult thing to read or listen to, but thank you so much for coming. And yeah, I'll have books for sale after right now, I guess, and I can sign some books if you guys want to purchase some. So thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it.